A word of warning, this podcast explores graphic and disturbing stories and includes some strong language. It therefore may not be suitable for our young listeners or other folks who may find it disturbing. Hello and welcome to True Crime Daily, the podcast covering high-profile and under-the-radar cases from across the country every week. I'm your host, Ana Garcia. And the cases that we're looking at this week, a man is accused of killing his girlfriend and immediately replacing her with a look-alike girlfriend who had even the neighbors fooled. So no one knew that the original girlfriend was even missing. Police in Arkansas say that they unraveled the case of the murdered woman through the serial number on her breast implants. But first, a woman who thought that killing the father of her baby would solve her custody problems has been convicted of murder. It was an elaborate plot that involved poisoning the man's oatmeal. And when the fentanyl-laced breakfast didn't finish him off, police say that she strangled the man with his favorite tie. Her accomplice was her own grown daughter, who told the jury that she did it to get her mother's love and attention. We are talking about literally killing to get mom's attention here. We are recording this on Wednesday, August 31st of 2022. Our guest today is Rodney Diggs, a Los Angeles-based litigator with experience in trying cases in both the federal and the state courts, and with a focus on discrimination cases. Welcome back to the program, Rodney.
Thank you, Anna. I'm glad to be back. How are you doing today?
I'm good. I'm really, really good. Can you believe it? It's the last day of August. We're done.
We're done. Moving into September.
Yes, we are. Yes, we are. Okay, we've got some incredible cases this week. Our first one comes from Indiana, specifically from Carmel, Indiana, which, by the way, I know this is slightly off topic, but this community is known for having the most roundabouts of any city in the country. They have 125 roundabouts. As I was researching the community to figure out, what kind of a place is Carmel, I'm like, really? This is what they're known for, roundabouts.
I'm used to roundabouts in D.C. They have a lot and have to get used to that. So to outbeat D.C. is something.
Yep. I just thought I would share that. It's just one of those unusual nuggets of information I came across while researching this murder case, right? Because facts are facts. So, we're talking here about a horrible and heinous way to deal with a problem of a custody dispute. Look, right. Families go through this all the time. They're horrible. They're painful. It's difficult on the children. It's difficult on the parents, on the grandparents. I get that. But there is no way to solve that problem by killing off one of the parents. It's just, right?
Exactly. I mean, I never understand why, some parents will go to this length to, commit murder on someone during a custody dispute, because at the end of the day, now the child is left with no parent.
Exactly. Right. One is dead and the other one is in prison for the rest of her life. Now, who's going to raise that child?
Exactly.
So, yes, very short-sighted here, but this was a plan which was in progress for some time. And I always find this interesting, Rodney, because I always think to myself, at what point does the person who is perpetrating this crime not have a moment of, oh my God, this is a really bad idea. What am I doing? There's none of that. There's no breaks on this one.
Not on this one. For her, this one was third time's a charm.
Yes. Sadly, it worked. It was horrible. So we're talking about 42-year-old Heidi Littlefield. Now, she's been convicted of killing her ex-boyfriend, 46-year-old Francis Kelly. And this, again, over a custody battle. She didn't want him to have custody of their 2-year-old daughter. So she eliminates him. According to police, Heidi tried to kill him several times, and the last one is the one that worked. But Heidi did not act alone. She had her 23-year-old daughter, Logan Runyon, and this was not her father. And the daughter's boyfriend, 29-year-old Robert Walker, helped with this whole crazy plan. The plan was to poison Francis by lacing his food with the deadly opiate fentanyl. Mm-hmm. So a little bit of background here. At the time of Francis Kelly's death, he and the ex-girlfriend, Heidi, so the two parents here, were in the middle of this contentious custody battle, and they were due in court. They were scheduled to have a hearing on January 27th of 2021, but Heidi and her daughter killed him 2 weeks before the hearing.
Correct. It's interesting because, they tried a couple times before, but initially the plan, from my understanding, wasn't to kill him, but it was to have drugs in his system so that when he's tested, she can say, aha, he's not a good fit father. He has drugs in his system. He can't watch our 2-year-old. And then she said, no, that's not a good plan. Let's just kill him.
Right. That one has too many variables that you can't control. What if it doesn't work? What if he doesn't have enough drugs in his system? What if they don't test him? Exactly. That one she could not control. So the thing I find disturbing about the plot is obviously the plot itself and the heinous way that this poor man was killed. But I also, I'm having a little trouble here with something, Rodney. Apparently, police had been warned and told that Heidi was threatening and plotting to kill Francis, yet did nothing. How does this happen?
I don't know. Because they got calls and it was from her ex-husband. And so he called 2 police departments. He called the police department and he called the sheriff's department. And he said, look, there's a person who's in danger. His name is Fran. The person who is going to perpetrate this attempted murder, her name is Heidi Littlefield. And they did nothing. They said that she's going to try to poison him. I believe his life is in danger. Did not warn Francis Kelly at all. They just sat there and they gave an excuse saying that there wasn't enough information. That right there is mind-boggling.
So let me ask you, since your area of expertise here as a litigator, is there any possible cause here where, the family of Francis Kelly can say, the police completely dropped the ball here. They were warned that there was someone trying to kill him and they did nothing to prevent it when they were told?
Absolutely. The family can go ahead and bring a 1983 claim against the police agency for failure to train, failure to supervise under a case called Manel. So it's a Manel claim that they can bring and just say, you should have been trained better. When you receive a call that someone's life is in danger, you need to do something to prevent that. You could have prevented this. In fact, you could have prevented it, at the first time when, she tried to lace his miso soup with fentanyl. And then the other time when she put it in his oatmeal. So the fact that the police did nothing, they had this information and they failed to act, there is absolutely a claim on behalf of the family for Francis Kelly.
I'm really upset about that part because there was an opportunity here to stop this and put this crazy woman away and yet save a life. Several opportunities. So that's very interesting. And I hope that the family does follow up with something like that because there's just no excuse for it. There's absolutely, because they could have, at least the police could have gone to Heidi and at least questioned her, right?
Correct.
And that could have been enough of a cold bucket of water to stop her. Now, she may have ultimately killed him. She could have ultimately run him down in the street. I'm not saying it would have completely stopped her, but it might have stopped this plan.
That's correct. It could have stopped the plan and she may have had to alter it or something else, or at least Francis could have been warned and he could have done something else, change the locks, because my understanding is that although he had, they had joint custody of the 2-year-old daughter, Heidi would still come and watch him in his house anytime he watched the daughter, which is strange because it wasn't supervised visits. It was that they have joint custody and she would come and be in the house. And so maybe he would change that up some and say, you know what, when I have my daughter, it's my time and I'll do this and we'll drop her off and pick up at a, joint location. But yeah, she had access to his house. The strangest thing is when you listen or at least read the voicemails, he says, I know you were in my kitchen last night.
Amazing, right?
How do you know that? You're able to taste the difference in your oatmeal and then say, I know you're here last night. Did you put something in my oatmeal? I mean, the fact that he called her right away leads you to believe that he possibly knew that this lady was, crazy or deranged or something, because that part stands out to me, that he even knew that to call her and say, you did something to my oatmeal. So that in itself is interesting.
Yeah, and it's also possible, while he may not have thought that the threat against him was one that would absolutely kill him, right? He may not have realized that. He may have been thinking in his mind, ooh, I've now have mounting evidence for my custody case that this woman is unhinged and she should not have custody of our little girl. So he may have been building his own case against her, thinking custody, not thinking, oh, she's really going to kill me.
Correct. That part too. Exactly.
So Heidi had tried to kill Frances several times, as you said, and the window of this was October 2020 through January of 2021. And the amazing thing is when they put the fentanyl in the miso soup, as you said, the takeout food, that just didn't work. Which is why then they came up with this next plan. It's like, well, the guy likes oatmeal, so we're going to put it in his oatmeal. So Heidi convinced her daughter, Logan, to buy the fentanyl in neighboring Ohio from drug dealers. Now, the daughter has admitted to struggling with a meth addiction, which could explain her ability to maybe quickly get her hands on some drugs. I don't, not making any judgments here. And so from the mother's perspective, she probably thought, well, she's the perfect one to go get the drugs. So according to the prosecutors, Heidi then plotted with Logan to do the poisoning. And what's interesting here is that the mother had the daughter do the poisoning. The mother plans, master plan here, plotting away. And then the daughter is the one who's supposed to carry out the poisoning. So when the backup plans kind of weren't looking so great, and I think you kind of, you were talking about that there was yet one other plan in the works, and that was to hire the daughter's boyfriend. Well, really, it was to ask him, Robert Walker, give him $2,500 to go hire a hitman. So now you're turning to your daughter's boyfriend saying, hey, can you find me a hitman? He's $2,500. Well, he later tells police when he's picked up on this, he's like, look, I was never going to hire anybody, and I certainly wasn't going to be involved in killing anyone. I took the money and we used it for drugs, clothes, and hotels. So he and his girlfriend enjoyed the $2,500.
Correct.
Finally, someone who's thinking clearly here, right? I am definitely not going to kill anybody, lady. Okay, so what's interesting here is that Logan, the daughter, ended up testifying against her mom. And that was incredibly powerful because she was a witness to what had happened. And even though the forensics may have supported the theory, you had someone in real time telling you how and what and admitting to doing it. So I think she was absolutely the most powerful tool that prosecutors had. So Logan testifies that on the third and final attempt to kill Frances, this was on January 14th, and the mother had told her daughter to sneak into Frances Kelly's house and put the fentanyl on the oatmeal. Now, Frances Kelly's last known communications occurred on January 15th. That would have been the next day. And there was one communication, a series of communications between Frances and Heidi, so the father and the mother here. And at first they were talking about their daughter, and then Frances switches, as you mentioned, and says, quote, "Did you do something to the oatmeal that was in my fridge?" And then Heidi responds, "What the actual expletive are you talking about?" Okay, whatever. And he writes back, "You were in my fridge last night and it tasted funny after a couple of bites and now I am lightheaded." So Frances then sends an email to his work, he does that at 1:56 p.m. So this gives you a timestamp of the last time we think that he's alive. And this is the last email that he sends. And he tells his boss that it was really weird that Frances would never leave work before 5. So again, things are not right. Logan then testified that she and her mother snuck back into Frances's house later that day, and they found Frances alive. He was on the floor, face down, gasping for air. Still alive.
Still alive.
But it doesn't end there.
No. They're taking a step further.
Yes, they do. So the mother says to the daughter, "Snap his neck." And she's like, and this is all in court testimony, it's like, "No, I can't. He's too heavy." So mom decides to take decisive action. Heidi goes to his bedroom, chooses his favorite tie, and uses it to strangle him to death. And then, just to make sure that it's finally done this time, right? She then bashes his head in. So fentanyl poisoning, strangulation, and trauma to the head, all found by the coroner. Found the fentanyl in the system.
Yep. It's interesting because that's a lot of rage. I mean, it's one thing, Anna, to, put fentanyl or poison someone and you're not there and, the death occurs, right? That's still a motive and that's still first degree murder because you're planning it. But to now come to the scene and, the fentanyl probably for the third time doesn't really work. And you're like, you see the person there lying, gasping for air. And again, as you said earlier, the thought is not, oh my, maybe I shouldn't do this. Let me try to help Francis and call her or do something. The thought process is to go to the room, look for it. This is his favorite tie, strangle him, and then bash his head in the ground to make sure that he is dead. I mean, that's a lot of hatred inside and a lot of rage. That's
why I was saying that even if the police had halted her from this plan, it's possible that she was on this spiral that ultimately she would have gotten him. But maybe he would have been able to at least protect himself and always be aware. But she was on a mission, and there was no way that it was going to end any other way than with the father of her baby dead. That's what she wanted, and that's what she ends up getting. So 3 days later, on January 18th, police are called to do a welfare check because no one has seen Francis Kelly. So he's found dead, except he's on his couch. And then police say that underneath his couch is a bag of cocaine. So it looks like, it could be an overdose, but really what they're doing is they're setting him up to look like he died of a drug overdose.
Right. I don't know how they thought they would, how they get away with there's too much DNA evidence, but to have this bludgeoning to the head and then place him on a couch.
Right. Exactly.
I mean, then now how do you explain the head trauma? All right. So they're not thinking through.
No.
Not thinking through at all. But again, it goes back to the police, the authorities could have acted, could have done something to, possibly prevented the murder in this way. I don't know. Another thing too, and this could be another motive in addition to the child custody issue is at trial, they talked about wanting to have access to his $1 million policy. He had life insurance. And so I'm not sure if Heidi was still a beneficiary or not, because that wouldn't make any sense to think that they would be able to get this $1 million life insurance policy.
But the baby would, and therefore who would have control over the money for the baby, but the mother who needs to take care of the baby.
That's right. Yep.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yep.
Yep. Oh my gosh. So the daughter, Logan Runyon, testified for about 3 hours, and she admitted that she did this to get her mother's attention, approval, and love, which is so sick.
Yeah.
I can't possibly get into her head and think, wow, this is what's going to change my relationship with my mother if I just do what she wants.
Yeah. Said, kill for her mother's love. And that's what happened. And then afterwards, all right, that's done. Let's go get a sandwich.
Yeah, this is not going to mend this relationship at all. No. The defense painted Logan as a woman who was incredible, that she was a meth addict and therefore could not be believed. And she told the jury, yes, I am an addict. Yes, I am. But that doesn't mean that I'm lying right now.
Correct.
And it's not like she got a sweet deal either, that Logan got that sweet a deal, because she's going to be in prison for 25 years.
Yep.
So it's not like she got immunity to testify against her mother. She had to have some sense of responsibility for her actions. And the jury believed her.
We'll see what what she's sentenced to in October. The one part I can't get my head wrapped around, and I guess there's not a lot of evidence, but the boyfriend, Robert Walker, he took a plea for 10 years but I still am confused as to what his role in it. I know that he said he took the money. He had no intent on, committing any sort of, murder, any felony. He used it on drugs and everything else, but he still took a plea for 10 years. So there has to be a little bit more to the story as it relates to that, because that's a long time as well.
It is, especially if he didn't do anything to harm Francis, which we may not know the details of as part of this deal. What's interesting is he kind of was the catalyst for the police to take action, because when he was arrested, he was picked up on a different outstanding warrant. And then he tells police about what's been going on. And then that kind of solidifies everything. Now, it's very possible, I kind of think it was a perfect storm, that the police were looking at Heidi, right? Because she would have, they knew that she was in a custody battle with him, so she would have the most motive. And then they're probably looking at the people around Heidi, and that would be the daughter and the boyfriend. So who's going to know the most? So I have a feeling it was a very targeted pickup on a warrant that they knew. It's like, let's have a little conversation with him. Right. So it is interesting that he ends up getting the 10-year sentence. He got, it was conspiracy to commit murder. And it's interesting because Logan, she pleaded guilty also to conspiracy to commit murder. And her sentence was 26 years. But here's the thing. She physically, if we are to believe everyone here, she says she's the one who put the fentanyl in there. So she technically poisoned him, but the question is, did she kill him? Because he was still alive. So I guess in the way the law would look at this, it's the mother who not only planned it, but she's the one who physically killed him. He was technically still alive from the fentanyl poisoning.
Right. It would be both. So you have the conspiracy to commit murder. And so everybody in conspiracy would be liable for the person who actually commits the murder, because they were conspiring in concert to do that. So that's why I can see that. I still don't know the conspiracy with Walker, but that's fine. The daughter definitely was. I think the fentanyl, although it didn't, and the thing is, we don't know if it ultimately killed him, but it probably played a part. It played a part in him being so incapacitated that he couldn't, fight back, because these are two, tinier women. I don't know the size. I don't think they put that out of, France, but I know that the women are very small. And so, he couldn't do anything to fight back, land there. So it probably played a part in it. And so that's why she got more time. And it could have been where the coroner says, look, this amount of fentanyl that was in his oatmeal would have killed him anyway. And so because of that, I think that's part of the reason why she took a plea for 26 years, right? So that's a long time as well. So I think that played a part. And she may have thought so, because she did get the two tattoos on her face, the teardrop to signify that, she killed someone. And then she got the cross, to ask for forgiveness for committing the murder.
I remember visiting someone in prison. This young woman had killed her her mother and stepfather, and horrible situation. This young woman had been abused for so long. It was horrendous, and she snapped. And I would visit her quite a bit. And when I went to visit her, she had started to do her own tattooing, on her face to indicate, and she said to remind herself of the two people she had killed. And I looked at her and I said, I have a feeling every single morning that you wake up, you know that. Do you really need a tattoo on your face to remind you that Correct. You did that? Mm-hmm.
That's something you live with.
Right.
Yeah.
Of course, then she said to me, she's like, hello, prison life. I'm like, okay, all right. I realize we're living two different worlds here. I totally get that. I'm not making light of it. But, right. This young woman gave me her perspective where she said to me, yeah, and what you don't understand is where I'm living right now. And I'm going to be in here for a very long time. So.
Yeah.
Just sad. And this case is so sad because it's really, what a dysfunctional family. And it ends in tragedy for everyone.
Yeah.
Everyone.
Everyone. The biggest victim is the 2-year-old daughter.
Yes.
That's who's going to suffer the most, because she's going to read about this. She's going to hear about this. She may have people taunting her when she gets older. I'm afraid she's going to need a lot of therapy, just as a kid growing older, to know that her mom killed her father because they were trying to argue who should have custody over her. And she could blame herself. That's the ultimate issue. And so, that's what, people don't think about when, they have these disputes and want to do harm to the other parent to prove a point, and the kid is smack dab in the middle of everything. They make it not about the child, right? If it's about the child, learn to co-parent, figure it out, but don't kill the other parent, because you're not going to get away with it. And then now the child has no parents at all and going to be put in a system, and who knows what's going to happen from there. So that's the real victim. And that's the unfortunate part, because if it was about the daughter, they would have acted in a totally different way.
Our next case is out of Arkansas. This case is unusual because when police found the murder victim on the side of the highway, they had no idea who she was. They ultimately ID'd her through the serial number on her breast implants. The victim was identified as 53-year-old Tonya Tran. Her body was found near Altus, Arkansas. The man charged with her murder is her boyfriend, 60-year-old Maurice Richardson. So police say that Maurice wasted no time in finding a lookalike to replace his other girlfriend. The new girlfriend resembled the victim so much that police say that when they went to interview him and they saw her, they had to do a double take. It was like, whoa, hold on a second. And then the neighbors didn't even know that it wasn't Tonya because they just thought it was her. They couldn't even, they hadn't even picked up on it. So it's a little unusual. I will say, Rodney, I mean, a lot of people do have a type, for sure.
Yeah.
But it's interesting how the police noted that. It's just an odd thing for police to note. It had to have been there's something about it that would rub them the wrong way. They were like, red flag.
Because of that, I so badly wanted to see pictures. I was trying to figure out, okay, how does Tony look? How does the new girlfriend look? Couldn't find anything. But yeah, I wanted to see for myself. I wanted to see, how do they even fool the neighbors for at least, 3 days?
Right.
So
and it could have been far away and you're waving while you're taking the trash out, but clearly no one realized she was missing. And that, I think, is an important part of what was going on here, is like no one even noticed that. So the background is that on August 10th, earlier this month, at 6:30 a.m., state police officers receive a call that there's a body near the highway in Franklin County. And the victim's body was found wrapped in plastic sheeting and then a comforter with a hummingbird and flower print. Very distinctive. And to help solve this case is sometimes we buy things in sets and things are matchy-matchy.
Exactly.
And ultimately, the matchy-matchy hummingbird print was found. So even though, you can't definitively say this is it, it's like, please, what are the chances of the coincidence of it being from the same set?
From the same set, and that somebody's probably going to buy this very unique hummingbird couch
pattern
set or whatever it was, that was in the living room. Yeah.
Yeah, very interesting. So the victim was identified through her breast implants, and police reported that the victim had been suffocated, sexually assaulted, and beaten. So just horrific. Police say that Tonya had moved to Fort Smith, Arkansas from Garden Grove, California, about 2 months before her murder. It was determined that the victim was living in a duplex with her boyfriend, Maurice Richardson. So a search warrant was executed on the duplex that was shared by Richardson and Tran on August 20th. And police found her minivan, a 2005 Nissan Quest with California tags, that was parked outside the duplex. When officers made contact with Maurice, they discovered that he was living there with another Asian woman identified only as not only his new girlfriend, but his fiance. So the police were a little surprised because they were like, wow, this looks a lot like our victim, a lot like our victim. And then police say that the new woman was wearing a wedding ring and other rings that belonged to the victim. Correct. They were able to positively identify that. And then the new girlfriend claimed that she was engaged to Maurice, even though they'd only known each other for 3 days.
3 days. That part stood out. he moved quick.
Love at first sight, Rodney. Love at first sight.
It could be, but how long, did it take for him to propose to Tonya as well? Maybe 3 days, maybe 5 days. I don't know. She moved out from California to Arkansas to live with this man. So who knows? Maybe they were engaged prior to her moving out through the internet of some sort. No idea.
I don't know. So when they searched the house, they found a brand new mattress, which they thought was interesting, along with runners that matched the comforter that she was wrapped in, the one with the hummingbird. Okay.
Correct.
Once again, they also found her blood in the minivan and markings indicating that the body may have been dragged from the vehicle. A second search warrant was executed for a property about 10 blocks away from the victim's home because police got a tip that Maurice had been doing work on this house. So they wanted to see what was in there, which is probably a very good idea. My guess is the tip was far more specific than, oh, he just worked there. I have a feeling it was like, you go in there and you're going to find this, this, and this, which they did. So according to police, they found a bloody mattress as well as personal items that belonged to Tonya, including a bag of her clothing and her citizenship paperwork. No reason for it to be there.
Correct.
Zero reason for it to be there. So prosecutors on August 24th charged Maurice Richardson with first-degree murder. He's currently being held on a $500,000 cash-only bond. And you say that there was an update this morning, Rodney.
Yes, this morning. So, there were 3 charges. The first charge was for theft, $1,000, greater than $1,000, and they dismissed that charge because 4 days later they charged him with murder. And so he had his hearing this morning. He asked the court, can he be released so that he can work, so that he can have money to hire a private attorney, because he was given a public defender. And the court said, no, you'll remain in custody and you can try to get a private attorney while you're in custody and work it out. It's interesting. What stood out was that his bond was only $500,000. That's, maybe it's a lot in Arkansas. It's a lot, but it's, for a murder that clearly points to Mr. Richardson, it seems as though it should be higher than that, or it should be no bond.
But they said cash only, right? Which means he can't
only.
Put anything up. So maybe that's how that they know that he can't meet it.
I guess that can be a way, because if it's, he can, but if get a bail bondsman, that's generally 10%, $50,000 cash. But I guess most people do put things up, so that could explain it. And he may not know a lot of people, so I don't know. I don't know the background.
I do not know. Prosecutors say that Richardson is a habitual offender, which could affect his sentencing if convicted. He has previous convictions for 2 felonies related to promoting prostitution and the possession of a firearm as a felon.
Yeah, the prostitution and promoting that happened in 1982. So that was
that's like a century ago.
Yeah, it's 40 years ago. So that's interesting. But yeah, I think like you and I discussed, I can't put my head around it, for motive or why or any of this happened. Because if he doesn't have anything since 1982, and that's just promoting, prostitution 40 years ago, I guess he was in his 20s at that time. And then, a handgun, that doesn't mean that he ever injured anyone. If this is not like him, because the manner in which he killed her, if he killed her, allegedly killed her, you want to say it, is to the point, like you said, they could only identify her through her breast implant, right? The face had to be bludgeoned. I believe I don't know if she was cut up or anything, but you couldn't identify her just by looking at her or anything else. They had to go into a breast implant. So that's.
Well, here's the other question about, look, we don't know. Certainly not enough has been released for us to ask a few more questions, because now I have so many questions. But here's a few things that are not adding up for me. Whoever tipped off the police, they knew that there was I mean, how do you not know that there's a bloody mattress in the place? That's
Right.
too big of an item to stash in someone's drawer without them knowing.
Correct.
So, was there an accomplice? He's not a young man. And, how do you move a mattress? Moving a mattress is not easy. I mean, anyone who's ever had to change a sheet knows it's hard just to lift up the corners of the mattress to tuck in the sheet. So now imagine you're moving this mattress.
How do you do that? And you're a 60-year-old man. So I don't know what type of shape he's in, but you're right. There could be accomplice. There could be somebody had to know something in this town, because it's not that easy to do all these things under the cover of darkness or whatever it may be. So I guess more information will come out, because a lot of it just doesn't make sense. But then he takes her jewelry and finds another Asian woman who looks just like her and proposes to her within 3 days. So, I mean.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And no doubt that is all really weird and suspicious.
Correct.
So there's a lot going on here, and there's a lot we don't know about. So I'm hoping that if there's an update on this, we'll be able to share it with all of you. It is time for our comment section. These are the crime stories that you all are talking about on our social media, and our producer, Will Updike, is here now with the latest on that. Hey, Will.
Hey, how's it going, Anna? Hey, Rodney. Good to see you.
Hey, Will, how are you doing?
Doing well. So this week we have a case of a deputy returning to his patrol car to find a very unlikely guest. Now, this case comes out of Madison County, Alabama. The deputy here is named Casey Thrower, I believe is how you pronounce it. And he was delivering some legal papers when all of a sudden a couple of goats inserted themselves into the situation. So he comes back to his squad car and he finds one goat is like in the driver's seat, uninvited. It's reportedly munching down on some of his paperwork. He's yelling at the goats. He's like, you got to be kidding me. Like, get out of here. You got to get out of here. Another goat climbs on top of the squad car. It's just kind of perched up there having a good time. So the deputy, recorded these moments as he's sort of like telling people back at the sheriff's office what the situation is. And he was apparently able to eventually shoo both the goats away. Now, this Deputy Thrower here, he's been serving Madison County for over 40 years. But according to some of his coworkers in the sheriff's department, this deputy often leaves his car door open when he's dropping off papers. I
think this was a setup. This was a prank. I'm sorry. Goats just are going to open the door with those hooves of theirs, right?
Well, he leaves the door open, apparently. Like sometimes when he's like dropping off papers. So his fellow deputies joke that Deputy Casey Thrower was also their goat. Or their greatest of all time. I'm going to show that video for everybody here. It's great.
Are you kidding me? Get out. Huh. There's nothing to eat in there. Don't eat that. Come on. Are you crazy?
But the comments on this one were great. Stig K said, I think we can all agree who's really in charge here, which, goats are taking over the place. Mm-hmm. Most people were, really thought this was like a good time. However, Scraper did not feel the same way. They said these goats should be given 20 years each.
No way. Those goats are innocent. Save the goats.
Whatever floats your goat, I guess.
I love it.
Leave the kids alone. No way.
Alone. Fallen E said they just wanted to catch a ride to their proper destination, which, could be true. Goats aren't the fastest of animals, so I'm sure they'd appreciate the lift. Shanos M said, "You've goat to be kidding me."
Oh, that's a good one. You goat to be kidding me.
Gotta get the double pun in there. I really appreciate it.
We have to do prizes. Why don't we do prizes for these things?
We should do prizes. We should do a pun prize every week. I feel like that's
we should do a pun prize.
You can give away paintings like a Vincent Van Gogh or something,
What could we do? We don't have anything. People are always asking me on YouTube. There's one guy on Twitter. He's so hilarious. He goes on eBay to find all sorts of crazy merchandise from Crime Watch Daily, which was the TV show that led to this podcast.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, he's like, he finds stuff on eBay. I'm like, really? That's impressive. So, but we don't really have any merchandise for true crime. We need to get merchandise, and we need to give prizes.
Yeah, at least like some stickers or T-shirts or. I mean, you finally got the mug.
Oh my gosh!
I've been get some more of those.
Rodney, for a year, I had been going on and on and on about a mug. I wanted a mug, and I know everybody laughs at me because they think I drink out of a milk bottle, which I don't. It's just, this is so hilarious. From the reboot of the Perry Mason show on HBO, they sent this to me, and it says Mason Dairy on it. Because the story is that, anyway, it's a great bottle to keep in the fridge to have my water, but it took forever to get the coffee mug.
Really? Oh, see, yeah.
Well, it's unfortunate because our last comment of the day, I do think, might be the mug winner. Jana S. says that was a bad move for them. Off to jail they goat.
Off to jail they goat.
But that is going to do it for today's comment section. As always, if you'd like a chance to get your comment featured on the show, go ahead, leave those over on our YouTube community page. We're also on Facebook and Instagram and TikTok. So yeah, we'd love to interact with you. Thanks, everybody. Yeah. Have a great week.
Bye, Will. Thank you, Rodney, so much for coming back. It's always such a pleasure. And I love that your background's just a slightly different one in the criminal justice system, so we can talk about litigation and other avenues when things happen, like with our first case. I really appreciate that insight. So where can people find you, either on social media or your law firm or whatever you're up to?
You can find me everywhere. My name, and generally on social media, is Rodney Diggs Esquire. That's where you'll find me on Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook. But my firm is Ivy McNeil White Purcell and Diggs. Go to our website, www.imwlaw.com.
Excellent, Rodney. It's a pleasure. I hope to see you back here soon.
Absolutely.
And y'all can find me at Ana G News, Ana with one N. You can find all of our episodes wherever you get your podcasts. Subscribe to True Crime Daily's YouTube channel. Also, you can sign up to receive our newsletter at truecrimedaily.com. So I'm your host, Ana Garcia. Until next week, this is True Crime Daily, the podcast. And as we always say, don't do crime.